I am building Iron Man. Hi and welcome, and yes, I am building Iron Man, specifically the 1/3 scale Mark III armour, modelled by Tony Stark in the original MCU movie Iron Man, the first one. This is the Fanhome / DeAgostini 1/3 scale metal and ABS screen accurate, fully licensed by Marvel, Iron Man Mark III armour. We have a letter saying welcome and all that kind of thing. We have get the incredible base for your incredible Iron Man, which I haven't done personally because it's an extra quid on top of the other subscription, over I think 97 episodes, something like that. And I thought, no, I'm not going to bother with that. This is my first part work. I need to say at this point, I'm going to pause right here for a second, and I want to give a big shout out and a thank you to my good friend Chris at Gross Models. Those of you who know him, know him. Those of you who don't, pop over to his channel. I will leave a link to his channel down here, and not down here. Actually in the video description, underneath that bit, underneath the video, and go and take a look at his channel, because Chris is also building the Iron Man. But not only that, Chris is a bit of a partwork connoisseur, shall we say, and he is currently also building the T-800 exoskeleton in 1/2 scale, and the X-Wing fighter in huge scale, and he has built the R2-D2 in, I think that was 1/2 scale. That's a really cool one. That's a good build. I recommend you watch that one. And something else. I'm sure he did something else as well, which I cannot think of at the moment. But go and take a look at Chris. Thank you to Chris for making me aware that this was coming out in the first place, and then causing me months and months and months of torture waiting for it to be officially and properly released, because the first time I subscribed to it and it never actually happened. That was really disappointing, but thankfully now it's here. So first of all, we have got a foldy-outy thing which tells you about the cool things you can get. There are some free gifts. There's a t-shirt, there's a power pack, there's a baseball cap, there's a rucksack to put your Iron Man armour in so you can change into it at a moment's notice. There's a big folder of Iron Man in his superhero landing cool pose. I will show a photo of that separately because it's a bit big. We have got issue number 1, issue number 2. We're going to look at those in a moment. We have got issue number 1, the helmet, and a screwdriver to put the helmet together. On the back, it does actually say, and I had to learn Italian to actually learn this, but it does actually say it's distributed by DeAgostini, and then I realised about 5 minutes after I'd learned Italian enough to read that it's also in English underneath, so there you go. So yes, this is issue number 1. This is the helmet, obviously, because you can see the faceplate. It lights up. It's very cool. These are batteries with which to power the LED lights. We get 4 batteries, a pack of 3 and a single one. These power the, we have got 1 in each foot, we have got 1 in each hand, in the palm of each hand. We've got the eyes, and we have got the chest arc reactor in total. So obviously more batteries will be coming. And we have got issue number 2, which is the foot. Left foot, I think. Is it the left foot? Not the Daniel Day-Lewis film, of course, but yes, which is a foot with lights and screws and metal bits and plastic bits, and it's cool. So this build is approved by Bob Ross. So yes, I am, as much as I do some serious videos, as you've seen, I am an unashamed superhero movie fan geek. I'm not a comic book geek. I don't know much about the backstory, so I won't be talking much about that kind of thing, the origins and all that business, but I loved the movies. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into ripping this thing open. As you can see, I've already separated it from its base. and it doesn't want to come out. And we'll have a quick look at what we've got in here. We've got a screwdriver, which is an aluminium handled, decent quality. It's actually pretty good, looks pretty good. And I believe this is supposed to be magnetic. We'll find that out shortly. First of all, very quick test. One screwdriver, one packet of screws in a little Ziploc bag, and we have got magnetized screws. You a diddle, Chris. They did you out of some magnetism. You tell them to post you some magnetism. We'll have a quick check, make sure we've got everything. Mask, visor, helmet, visor base, LED support, that bit there. Right, oh no, battery cover, LED assembly, support post, helmet base, earpiece, switch, helmet base plate, helmet support, mask part B, and then the screws and screwdriver. It's all there. So we'll pop to the instructions and away we go. So we've got all the parts laid out. Bob is supervising, Mr. Bob Ross, ladies and gentlemen, and making sure that we do everything correctly. Thank you, Bob. Much appreciated. And we're going to start with the main body of the helmet, and this mounting bar, this long black piece which slots into this fitting here. It does not look like it is handed. It doesn't go a specific way. So I'm going to pop that in there. And we have got a selection of screws. We have got EP, AP, BP and EM. The ones ending in P are blue, the ones ending in M are black. And something that hadn't actually occurred to me, but obviously as Chris mentioned, P stands for plastic, so the ones that are screwing into plastic, and that makes sense because they're a slightly coarser self-cutting type of thread. And then M is obviously for the metal. So we need 2 EM screws. So using my magnetic screwdriver, because DeAgostini or Fanhome were kind enough to provide me with magnetism. And I think that's very kind of them. Marvellous. So I'm going to pop this in using 2 screws. Whoops. The next part to be fitted is the LED assembly for the eyes. We've got 2 LEDs, we have got a battery box, and we have got a little sprung micro switch. This will be actuated by the earpiece. And this fits into the cavity there with paying attention to the screw which is for the magnetic cover which goes to the cutout. Next step is the opaque visor. That snaps into place. We now need the LED mount. We just push the LEDs through and they are held in by friction. Good old friction. What a marvellous, marvellous invention. At this point, with the LEDs fitted, I'm going to test them because it's logical to do so, and not at all because I'm eager and excited and I want to see it light up. So, using a pair of plastic battery tweezers, which I never did like very much actually, they're fiddly and awkward. I'm going to pop the battery in there, and I need to get a hold of this little switch. Oh, look at that. Look at that. We have LEDs, ladies and gentlemen. No, it's got to be done. Got to be done. Oh, yes. Right, anyway. Enough of the childish silliness and on with the build. And we take the base plate and this little doodad. This goes on here. It looks like it goes on any which way. Next step is to put the base plate into the rear portion of the helmet, which fits into this slot. Okay, that was a little bit of a wriggle to get that in, but I can see how that sits now. That's good. Next up is the earpiece switch. It has a little tab and a flat locating slot, and the little tab is what operates, whoops. This requires a BP screw, a British Petroleum, which is a countersunk screw head. Okay. This earpiece with the switch then fits into this slot and it goes into a little trough, so it will only rotate, whoops, like so, as you can see there. Next thing we need to do is find the little micro switch among its tangle of wires. I'm just going to fiddle with this and untangle it. Next, we connect the helmet together, making sure the wires are not mangled, mashed up. I don't like pulling wires about, it makes me uncomfortable. Okay. All right, that actually looks pretty good. And in the base we use 3 EM screws. EM screws. That forms the base plate that the neck piece is obviously going to connect to. Next, the battery cover. So we will actually need to fit the battery at this point. So using my infuriating battery tweezers, I'm going to fit the battery. But first I'm going to try something. What is he doing, I hear you say? That's an excellent question. I'm glad you asked. What I have here are some cheap Poundland batteries, and these cost typically £1, you know, coming from Poundland and all. And I've always got a card of these kicking around in a drawer somewhere, just for little bits and pieces, and mainly for checking things. And what I'm thinking is, these are actually a little bit thicker than I was hoping to find. But what we've got here is a lithium cell, which is 3 volts. Now these of course are standard watch batteries, they're 1.5 volts. But when I saw this big huge space with this massive spring, I thought to myself, I wonder if they're too big, and that's not going to work. Dang! Never mind. Here's a couple of smaller ones. Let's try these. Now this is more for curiosity than anything, because of course you can just get yourself the right size cells to do the job. But curiosity made me think, I wonder if we can get 2 of these, which obviously in series makes 3 volts. Which would work the same as 1 3-volt lithium battery. Now, I suspect it will work. However, these are going to be small and fiddly and awkward. So I'll be back in a moment after I've fiddled with this. And as we can see, you've got 2 batteries in there in series, so you've got 3 volts. And as you can see, it works. Now that's a bit rubbish because these batteries are old and well past the best. But that does work, so that's interesting. That's worth bearing in mind. Interesting. Oops. Oh. But yeah, as you can see, we've got... well, you probably can't see that actually because... oh, yeah, you can, just about. There we go. So that's an interesting thing. That's an interesting thing to note. But, of course, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use the supplied lithium cell. Right, getting back to the serious fitment. And there we go. And we have got a battery door hatch with a little tab that locks under there. And then we need an EP. Because, of course, it's screwing into the plastic battery holder. So that's the main part of the helmet done, and the base plate screwed back on. Next up, we need to sort out the faceplate. So, in the faceplate, we have a neodymium magnet to match the one in the helm. We need to put the goggly eye bits on, which fits with the curves downward, and we need an EM fastener. And then the lower bit, which is a little plastic tab, locating tab, and fits. Let's bring that up in focus for you so you can see what's going on. Fits in that orientation like so. And then the final part of the assembly is like so. Oh, we like that. Look at that. With the light up eyes, that looks... yes, I like that. I like that a lot. I like it a lot. It's very, very good indeed. What I don't like, however, is that this little earpiece doesn't quite line up with the other one. So I think I'm going to have a look at that at a later date. But for now, I'm very pleased. Very pleased with that indeed. We've got a nice, shiny Iron Man helmet. And end of episode 1. So, quickly before we start on episode 2, this was bugging me a little bit about this not lining up, so I had to correct that. And as you can see where that lines up there, this now actually lines up and lights the eyes as it should. So I'm happy with that. What I had to do was just twiddle where the micro switch was and also move the little plastic switch that actually moved the micro switch. I had to move that and hold it in place while I retightened it, and that now does what it should do. So I'm happy with that now. So we'll pop you aside. You sit over there and keep an eye on things. Masco. Left foot, sole, heel, screen, LED holder, toe cap, covers, toe joints, upper, no, that's the upper, LED assembly, battery cover, and some screws. Oh, and ankle joint and ankle cover. So we'll get all the parts out and back in a sec. Step 1, insert ankle joint through there like so. And then ankle joint cover, is that handed? I don't think it is. I think it's all the same. That sits on top, and then 4 EM screws to secure that in place. So we've got the ankle joint in place, that's secured and it's nice and stiff and sturdy. And you can see that's screwed down quite tightly there, making sure of the orientation. So you need this little socket on this side and the big open side on this side. The foot plate and the LED cover, I think it goes in pretty much any which way. Yeah, it looks like it. 2 AM screws. Next step is to unscrew the screws you've just fitted, swing this aside because you've forgotten to put this opaque plate in, like a wally. So we pop that in and then we refasten these again. And that of course looks much better because we now have the repulsor light. Next we need the light box. So of course this one only has one LED and a little circuit board there, so I want to treat this very, very carefully with a little push switch. I want to treat this very carefully because obviously I don't want to be pulling any wires from that. The LED, of course, just like the eye sockets, slots into the little hole there. So the battery hatch and the little switch fit into here. It doesn't, the instructions are not actually very clear on this, but I'm looking at this and logic says it goes in like that because there's a little sort of slot cut out where the wires will go. This bit goes here like so, so obviously the battery hatch, the open battery hatch is uppermost on the foot, and that jointly holds in the little switch with this plastic tag down here, which hopefully you can see. And we then put a screw into there, and we need a doesn't tell you the screw type. That's interesting. I'm going to put the switch around so the wires are going the other way, the other side, like so. Same principle, but they're going in the slot at the other side. That back where it was before, and then that little board should sneak down there. Right, so that's gone in. It's required a bit of wire jiggling. I'm really not 100% happy with that. That requires a bit of sort of bending of wires and pushing and shoving, which makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. But I'm just going to pop a battery in and test this and make sure I've not dislodged anything important. Okay, it's working, and I'm hoping that it's actually supposed to be flickering like that. I'm guessing because it's the foot, and that's what that board is for, I'm guessing. So I think it's supposed to do that. Hopefully. Yes, but that's a bit of a wiggle to get all that in. I'm really not 100% happy with that, I've got to say. Now that's interesting and slightly concerning. I just actually took this apart again to have a quick check of how everything was sat, because I really wasn't 100% happy. And I've just put it back together. It looked okay. I put it back together, kind of how I had it before, with tried to tuck the board down the side so it's not touching any metal and it's near the plastic. Switch that on again, and we've now got a solid light, as you can see, which presumably is what it's supposed to do. I'm not entirely sure what had happened the first time, whether it was perhaps touching metal and that was what was causing the flickering, I don't know. But I'm a little happy with that. So next thing I'm going to screw the sole onto the foot upper, so that's 2 AM screws. I cannot find anywhere in the instructions that says which screw to put in the battery holding box. So what I'm going to do is use an AM, which we seem to have an abundance of, and it is obviously being screwed into the metal upper part of the foot, so that's what's going in there. So I'm going to secure that with that. I'm going to put the battery hatch cover on just now, because the battery's in there. There's no point in not doing so. So let's just skip forward, ignore the instructions to do it piece by piece. Skip forward to putting the hatch cover on, and we need an EP. Next up, we need the toe section. And these two little plastic bits, these two red plastic bits, they've got a sort of flat side and a slightly curved side, so I'm going to put the flat side innermost and hope that that's correct. If it makes a difference, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, I'm not sure. And then the foot slides onto that, and that provides a friction fit. And then we need 2 CM screws. We've got an articulated toe piece for the superhero landing pose. We now need these covers. Do they go in a particular way? I think not. I think they are same size pins both sides, and they, I'm assuming, just, I think these are just push fit. Next, I'm assuming, is the foot plate. This bit it is indeed. We need 2 AM screws, and this just simply sits on like so. So the final step is this bit. You can see we've got a neodymium magnet and another neodymium magnet and a fingerprint. Ooh, I wonder who that could be. If only we had access to the Thingamabob labs, the CSI labs, we could find out who painted this particular part. Look at that, a genuine DeAgostini fingerprint. Let's focus on that for you, if I can. Oh, come on. I don't know how well you can see that, but we've got a genuine DeAgostini Fanhome fingerprint. Marvellous. It's almost like a signature of the person who made this particular, who painted this particular part. Fabulous. Look at that. We have got Iron Foot and Iron Head. A new kind of hero. A very, very short hero, but yes, you get the picture. Anyway, so, as there were plenty of those screws, I'm assuming the battery cover did indeed need one of those because it fit. It works, and we have got a spare one of all of the others, so I'm assuming it must have been an AM screw. For anybody who's looking at the instructions thinking, which screw do I put in the battery hatch cover thingamy-bob? That's magazines 1 and 2 done. We have got an Iron Man helmet with light-up eyes. We have got an Iron Man left foot with, with light-up foot repulsor thingamy thruster doodad. And articulated flappy toe bits and a genuine fingerprint. Yes, that's cool. I'm pleased with that. I'm pleased with that so far. An interesting point of note, on video this probably doesn't look that big in the grand scheme of things, but when you're holding it in your hand, it's got quite an impressive size to it, and it's got quite a bit of heft as well, and likewise so does the foot. There's some weight there. I'll have to get my scales perhaps for the next issue and weigh these just to give you an idea of what they weigh for those of you who aren't actually getting this build but are interested in watching. But yes, I think the whole model is going to be really quite hefty overall, and at 60 centimeters it's also going to be some size. Now, this mat is an A3, I believe it is. It's 43 centimetres from end to end of this grid. So if I slide this over to the far frame of the video and we place Mr. Iron Man head on that upper line there, like so, and 43 centimetres, and then we need to measure another 17 to get 60. So we'll push this as far over as we can, and this is 7, so that's 50 centimetres, and then here we go, 17, right on the very edge. Look, let me get my tweezers to point. My thumb is there. It's literally right there on the very edge of the screen. So that's edge to edge of the screen. That's 60 centimetres. Now we'll put Mr. Iron Man left foot there with the sole at that point. That's how big this fella's going to be. That's some size. That is going to be some size when the whole body is complete, when we've got the body, the arms and the legs. So it's literally full width of this screen. Interesting, interesting. I've got to admit, I was excited about this before. Having now built these, I'm even more excited. So excited. So good. At this point at the end of the video, I'm just going to flick through and you can see the actual page content, and should you wish to do so, you can freeze frame and have a look and have a read. And at the first part we've got scenes from the movie. We've got the Ironmonger armour that Obadiah Stane makes, which is taken from Tony Stark's original Iron Man armour designs. We've got the instructions, and then we have got the comic book origins and the Obadiah Stane story and all that kind of thing, which apparently was changed from Vietnam to the Middle East, to the name escapes me, but you know what I mean. But the story sounds very kind of similar. Obviously feel free to correct me if you know the comic book storyline better. As with the previous magazine, I'm not going to go through the details. I will just flick through and you can take a look. I will try and get them so there's no glare, so you can actually freeze frame and take a look for yourself. So we've got A Hero is Born, the original Iron Man origin story stuff. Afghanistan was the word I was looking for in the previous video. They changed the story from Vietnam to Afghanistan, obviously making it current and topical, or more current and topical rather. And then we have got a bit about the Superhuman Registration Act, which of course was the whole kind of thing covered in the Captain America Civil War, and some comic book lore. And then some information about the, let's try and get this so that there's no glare. This is very tricky actually, trying to get it lit but at the same time getting no glare on these glossy, nice glossy pages. So there we go. And the Mark 1 armour. That's magazine number 2, so that's magazines 1 and 2. There we are so far. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.